So January 2014, let's get started. All right, question 1, relations and functions. Select the equation that best represents the following graph. And you should realize that this is an exponential function because it has a y-intercept goes up. So what are our options? Out of all of these, we do know that the y-intercept is 0, 5,000, right? So when you're given this format, okay, the 5,000 should be up front. That's the y-intercept. So all of them meet that criteria. So now we need to figure out what would we need B to be in this case. We would want it to be above 1, okay, because this is an increasing function. So we're going to look for all the ones, and the only one that meets the criteria is this function right here. It has a B value greater than 1, so C it is. Okay, that's it. Just have to know your functions. Next, let's type this in. Very straightforward, just type in and go. 3 marks though attached to this page. So it says the community center has a new exercise program aimed at increasing the lung capacity. Always read carefully what's the context, right? Following the data was obtained and measuring the lung capacity of a person in regular intervals during the program. Determine the cubic equation. So let's go ahead and do that. Follow me because of the window, right? That's always the trick here. Big numbers in the millions, right, for lung capacity. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, zeros seem to have been something like it. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Put in the big numbers. Making sure we don't make a mistake. Zero, 20, 5, 120. And notice how my calculator has that E, right? So that shouldn't throw you off. As soon as you go over the cell, it does show you what's actually in there. So these are little things we want to make sure we don't freak out when it's the exam, right? So we go stat, calc, cubic regression, and we do the whole L1, L2. That's the equation I'm supposed to be getting there. I'm just going to verify with my key, and we are good to go. One thing, I don't know if you remember the stat plot. So if you go y equals, I'm going to clear everything else. You turn on plot 1. If you graph it, right now I don't see anything. You obviously have to make sure your y values, like in your window, your y max has to be at least like 5.5 million, right? Sorry, I shouldn't change the y min. Sorry, x min, that should stay. The x max, I'm going to set that to 100, let's say, because I'm going up to 60. 100 is a pretty good number. For y max, I'm going to go 5,500,000 or something like that. I think that's slightly off, but there we go. And so now you're only seeing that little bit here. These are the how many points did we enter? 7 points, right? And so what I like about the plot is that you see that all the points are where they're supposed to be. Because if you have one way off here, then you know you typed it in wrong. Or if one is missing, right? Come on in. All right, so my window is still not the greatest, okay? I'm going to increase, I'm going to go 10 million on the Y max because I just want to see a little bit more. And here's where I want you to pay attention. It doesn't look like a cubic, correct? Because you got to imagine we're just looking at a little picture. The cubic might go like this and might do a bend and then keep going down into the negatives. But we don't care because we can only have days of training positive and lung capacity positive. Okay, we're just sticking to this. Let's write down our equation first and foremost. make sure we get that right. So please don't forget your y equals. At least write down cubic reg somewhere, okay? And then round to 2 decimals. X cubed, negative 23.81 x squared. If you even get one of these, if you miss an x squared or whatnot, you lose half a mark, okay? So there you have it. I think the part where I can see students making a mistake here is that the numbers are so big, right? And they might seem wrong, but you're fine, because remember, this is your y-intercept, right? You're way up on the y-axis. This is my y-intercept right here at the end if it's a polynomial. Okay, explain why the domain is limited in this situation. Why is the domain limited? And remember, this is your domain, this is your range. And so our domain right now is lung capacity, right? It's, sorry, days. Thank you. And this is capacity. So the range deals with capacity. So the domain would be, what's the problem with the domain going into infinity? You don't live forever, right? We wish, but we don't. So you can say a person can't train indefinitely. Okay? Will die at some point if you want to be harsh, right? You can say that. So there's a problem with the number of days. And you can also say there can't be negative. That would also be acceptable. Can't have negative days. So if you look at this cubic, you have to restrict it. You have to start at 0, and you cannot go to infinity. There's a restriction on both ends, okay? A problem, so to speak. Explain why the range is limited. You could say the lung capacity at some point maxes out, right? Lung capacity maxes out at some point. You can also can't have negative capacity, right? That would also be a good one. And if you think of anything else, as long as it makes sense within the context, you're fine. Okay? So this is it, a cubic right here. Let's keep going. Question 3. Just a straight up graphing question. At first, a golf ball is struck from an elevated platform. That's probably worth noting. Elevated platform that we're not on the ground, and you can tell by that y-intercept, right, that it starts higher off the ground. The height of the golf ball above the ground is modeled by this equation. H represents the height, and T is the time. So T, right, time and height is what we're relating here. So let's graph this. Let's get the X and the Y right, okay? This will be time in seconds, and this will be height in feet. So I'm going to go a little faster than what you in yards, as I was saying. So I shouldn't be going faster. That's what you're saying, right? Okay, let's type that into our calculator. Make sure plot 1 is turned off if you're not performing a regression. Some of you don't use it anymore, and that is fine. You don't have to use plot 1 anymore. There we go. I typed that in. It's going to be a very, very small curve here because I'm in the millions right now. So I'm going to reset my window. I'm going to go zoom 6, a standard window, and I'm just now increasing my Y max a little bit. I'm going to, let's say, 50 for the Y max. That is pretty good. You see everything. Let's just find those points. Let's just find those points. The y-intercept is 0.4. We know that just by looking at our equation. Let's find the vertex. So they just assume you're going to find that, right? Like you need those turning points. You need to know where it is. So this would be 2.94, 50.04. So, and you know what? It may come in handy later on anyways when you have to answer questions. The x-intercept, we only care about this one here because the other one will be in the negatives, right? It starts at 0 times 0, 4. So we let y2 equal to 0, hit graph, second trace 5, go over to that one that you're interested in, enter 3 times, 6, 0 is the time this ball hits the ground. So those are the important points that you should have on there, and it will guide you with your scaling. So I'm going to equally space this out. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are good to go there. It lands right here, so I can stop. And I need to go as high as 50. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay. I'm going to label every other one. That is fine with them as long as you have a consistent increase. And so let's plot this. 0, 4, this is 10, this is 5, 4 is right there. 2.94 is right here, going up to the 50s, just over the 50 right there. And then just connect the dots right there, and don't forget your equation. Okay, boom, you got your 2 marks right there. All right, backside. So the top always says this question has a total of 3 marks attached to it. 2 of those are taken up by the graph. And then we're going to do the backside here. Using a graphing calculator or software, determine the maximum height of the golf ball. Guess what? We already know that. But I'm going to show my work anyhow, okay? Second trace max. Remember, if it's facing the other way, it's a min, okay? And I just want you to make sure you don't leave it like that. Okay, if you want full marks, you have to say 50.04 yards because we're talking height, right? So you have to have units, and you have to state which one of those 2 numbers is actually answering the question. All right. Let me zoom in a little bit. So there you go. Keep going. Some years the exams are pretty straightforward, and then other years there's a bit more, there's more tricky questions in there, so you just have to read carefully. The population of a city since 1996 is shown in the table below. And so we've got the population, that's our x, and number of years is our y. Notice that, right? Your time in years is your y-axis. So don't get this wrong, right? The first row is always your x, second row is your y. Determine the logarithmic equation that models this data set. So let's go ahead and do that. Clear, clear. There you go. 4, 5, 6, 8, 10. Watch the jumps, right? It goes up by 1s, all of a sudden goes up by 2s. So there's your entry. I'm going to go stat, calculate. Don't go linear regression. I don't like that they have them so close together. It's a natural log, right? See, option 9. Alpha trace enter. There we go. And that's what I get. So just go and tell me which one you're using. And don't forget your y equals. And we've got a positive b value, right? 54.32 natural log of x. Perfect. You're done. One mark. Just if you're basically checking, do you know how to do a regression? Not too bad. Next, using your equation in A, predict the population of the city in 2016. Show your work. Then you have to show work, especially if they do say it. So we know that this is starting from 1996. Okay, so you subtract, and within this question, right, it would be 20 years from 1996 that we're talking about. Okay, so this would give you a mark figuring out that it's 20 years since 1996. And in this case, they want the population after 20 years from where you kept track of this. They want the population. So how do I know population is X? Way from the table, right? A table is X, so that's what they want, and we know our Y in this case, which is 20. Okay, so we let Y2 equal to 20, second trace, intersect. So let's see if we can actually find this on our calculator, okay? So follow me. Let's zoom down a bit. So I'm going to try to graph this thing. Don't see anything. Hold on. And you know, if you look at your table, that's gold, right? Look at your x-axis. Your x-axis should go all the way to 30,000 and something. Your y-axis should go past 10. So that's how I change my window. Okay. I'm going to go 40,000 on the x-axis. And I'm going to go, let's say 20 on the Y right now, just based on what's in here. I go past the highest values. Lolo, one of those. And there I start seeing it, right? It crosses the x-axis here and it keeps going. I want to graph the Y2 equals to 20 line. And it's way at the top of my screen. I don't like that too much. I'm going to increase my Y max just a little bit more. I'm going to go 40 there. And so that is the point I'm interested in. So I'm going to try to sketch that. So I'm only interested in quadrant 1. This thing starts somewhere here and keeps going like that. So this is years, and this is population, right? So I'm interested in that point right there. Second trace 5, enter, 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 and that point is 36,904 and 5120. Okay. So in this case, you still have to state approximately 36,905 people. You could have gone 904. I'm rounding up because of this, okay? Because of the 5 after the decimal. So approximately, and maybe make sure you circle your final answer because that's what they want, right? In this case, I've put a statement in, so I don't need to circle, but it's probably a good idea to do so when there's lots of stuff going on. Let's keep going. Here's a sinusoidal for you. The London Eye is a giant Ferris wheel in London, England. It has a maximum height of 135 and a minimum height of 0. Okay, so they give you the max and they give you the min. One complete revolution takes 30 minutes, so that's your period right there. Passengers get on the ride at the bottom of the wheel. So here's your period, which is 30 minutes, and you know your max and your min already. Okay, determine the sinusoidal equation that models the data. Explain how you arrived to your answer. Indicate your input values if you're using a technology tool. So here we go. We want our 3 lines, right? We need to figure out, in this case, it's the height, right? So the maximum is 135, the minimum is 0. And to find this one, some of you were subtracting on the test for some reason. So you add these two up, hit enter, and then divide it by 2, and you get 67.5 is your mid. Okay, 67.5 right there. So you've got the y figured out. The period is 30, so the x scale, how much we're going up horizontally, is 30 divided by 4, and that's 7.5. Okay. And in this case, it's minutes, right? So figure out your max, mid, min, figure out your period, then figure out what the x scale will be by just dividing it into 4. And now, the starting point. So a lot of you on the test, you're pretty good at figuring out these two pieces, like the 3 and the x scale. But the starting point is where a lot of you went wrong. So in this case, the only indication that I have where this thing starts is the passenger get on the right at the bottom of the wheel. So that's where you start. You start at the bottom of the wheel, and we start at time 0 because they don't indicate otherwise. So we are at 0, okay? And that means that the only way forward is to go up and then back down for a full cycle. You know that from 0, if you add a period to 0, we end up at 30. Okay, so you're expecting, if this had been, we're starting at 5 minutes, then if you add 30 to it, this would have been 35 here, okay? So we go up by 7.5 every time. This is 22.5, and then another 7.5 is 30. So these are the progression, this is the progression that you want. Time and height, let's plug those in. We start at 0, 0, 7.5, 67.5, 15, 135, 22.5, back to 67.5, and then at 30 you're back to 0. You plug that into L1, L2. We're going to go sin reg, and we're going to figure out our equation. And I'm doing this in real time so that you know kind of how long to take for this, right? So 0, 7.5, 15, 0, 67.5. There we go. Sinusoidal regression, sin reg. Go through the motions. There you go. And it's 67.5, sin of 0.2094x. You could also just do 2 decimals there. There's nothing wrong with it. Plus 67.5. So that is my equation, okay? And the explanation is everything you've done on there. That's your explanation, okay? How did you arrive with the points, all of that stuff. All right, next. How many minutes would a passenger be at least 100 meters above the ground? I want you to be okay with the at least. What it says is 100 meters or more, okay? That's what at least is saying in this case. And 1 complete revolution. So what we're going to do is we're going to let y2 equal to 100, and then we're going to figure out when that happens. So first of all, let's see how this works out on our window. I'm going to hit graph, see what happens. It's a bit too busy, too many revolutions there. So let's adjust it a little bit. My x max in this case, if I go 3 times what my period is, 90, that's a good X max. For Y min, I don't go too far down, so I'm going to go -5, and I go as high as 135, so let's go 140 for the Y max. There you go, that's much better. And then I'm going to draw my 100 line, which is right here. And remember, from low to the high, back to the low, that's one cycle. So we're just interested in how long are we above that red line here. So let's find the 2 times. Your graphs, for the most part, they were very well done on the test, so I don't have a whole lot of complaints on that side. 8985. Make sure you do 4 decimals. Time 2 on its way down. Go closer to it and hit enter 3 times. 20.1015. That's half a mark for each. See how it's a 2-mark question? You get half and half, and then they give you a full mark for actually subtracting them. And if you do that, you get 10.20 minutes is your time at or above 100. And that concludes our relations and functions. All right, let's keep going. Probability. 1 markers are usually not as complicated. 2, then you have to watch it. Assume that repetition is allowed. How many different 4-digit codes can be created using digits 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6? So that's count, that's 7, right? If it's 1 to 6, it's 6 plus 0 is 7 options. So you've got 4-digit passwords, and it's just 7 options per slot. That's 7 to the power of 4, which is 2401. Okay, so boom, D is the answer. If repetition had not been allowed, right, then it's 7 pick 4. I'm guessing that I can guarantee you that one of these is 7 pick 4, just in case you missed the repetition is allowed. Okay, so just be careful. Don't commit right away. Read carefully. A national survey found that 83% of students like pizza. If 3 students are selected at random, what's the probability that all 3 students like pizza? So in this case, you could do tree diagrams. It would get very messy. But you're just interested in liking pizza, and liking pizza. You want the P, right? Pizza, 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 because all of them have a not liking pizza, right? So you're just interested in that one. So it's 0.83 times 0.83 times 0.83. That's what the probability is of, so it's 0.83 to the power of 3 essentially. That ends up being 5718. You're okay leaving it like that. If you want percentage, it would just turn into that. Keep going. Maybe for question 6, if it says how many do not like pizza, you would just go, right, 0.17 times 0.17 times 0.17. Like if all 3 do not like pizza, you do the exact opposite. But my guess is that this would have been a 2-mark question because you have to do the figuring out the 17 and then multiplying. Okay. Question 8. There are 16 ducks on a pond. 7 of the ducks are female. Determine the probability. Please make sure you highlight. Is it probability or is it the number of? Probability of selecting a female duck. So in this case, if it's probability, it's just 7 over 16, and that's it. I wouldn't turn it into a decimal. I wouldn't turn it into a percentage unless they ask you to do so. Done, 1 mark. So you're gonna have a few that are fairly straightforward and then some that aren't. Next, the odds. Odds, okay, so you know your answer will have to be stated like this. Then you have to read, what does it say after? It says against selecting a female duck. Sorry. Against. If it says against female, then you have to first have not female ducks and then female ducks go second. That's what against means. Okay? So we know, in this case, it's easy to put in the female ducks. We know there are 7. And what about this side? 9, right? It'd be 16 minus 7. So that's 9 to 7. So make sure you don't have the total anywhere in your odds. You should be able to add this up and get back to the 16 denominator, right? For our probability. If you add this up, you get back to the 16. That's what you want to see. Odds of female, right? If it had said that, then you want female first and not female second. So that would have been exactly the opposite. Okay, this is just an aside. I know it didn't ask for it, but here it is. All right, let's keep going. Question 9, Venn diagrams, okay? The Venn diagram shows that the enrollment of students in 2 extracurricular activities is as follows. So you've got student council and you've got golfers. But you've got some students that do both and then 13 that do none of them, right? Are these 2 activities mutually exclusive? Explain your reasoning. We would say they are not mutually exclusive. Or you can just say no, right? They are not mutually exclusive since 6 students are enrolled in both. I'm using their wording. That'll be good enough. That shows us you know that that's not mutually exclusive because they're joint, right? So they're joint sets. If you want to put that down, that doesn't hurt, as long as you don't contradict. Determine the probability that a student selected at random will not participate in either activity. Probability, please make note of that. Right? In this case, you would go 13 out of, you need to figure out your total. So you need to go up here and just add it up. This is 10 plus 9 is 19, 32, right. 32 total, so make sure you make a note of that. And so we put the 32 over here, done. Move on. So Venn diagrams and probability, they're very much, they're non-mutually exclusive. Okay, question 10. Laurel has a bag containing 5 blue, 3 green, and 2 red marbles. That's 10 total. I'll just make a note. This is probability, probably need that. Using the information above, create a scenario with 2 events that are dependent. I like these questions because it really makes you think and it shows us whether or not you understand. Explain why they are dependent. So we're going to create 2 events and then we're going to explain why we are saying that they are dependent. So you can say this. Maria selects a blue marble from the bag. and does not replace it. So this is event number 1. This is the first event. Josh selects another marble determine the probability of Josh selecting another blue marble. So this is the first event, and I'm going to highlight that does not replace it or underline it on the day of the exam, right? That is the key there. So now we've created a scenario where there are 2 events, and we can tell they're dependent because things are not being replaced. Events are dependent since the first marble is not replaced. And you could say, you could keep going, and you could say, and if it's not replaced, then the first event affects the second event, but this is good enough. This is where we we can tell you understand what's happening here and what makes 2 events dependent, okay? All right, and so that's just how you do one of those. Let's keep going. Question 11. An art gallery wants to display some photographs in a row on a wall. There are 2 different color photographs and 2 different black and white photographs. Using all 4 photographs, how many different arrangements? Right? Arrangements is when order matters. Okay, are possible if color photographs and black and white photographs must alternate. So that's something that we did mention at one point. Has been a while. So what we have here is we've got 4 pictures that we want to arrange. So if we start with black and white and then color, black and white, color, that would be one option, right? So you have 2 black and white photos, and then you'll have 1 to fill in this slot here. And then you've got the 2 color ones. You've got 2 for this first slot of color photos and 1 at the end. So if you go 2 times 2 times 1 times 1, that's just 4. Oh, it's a 2-mark question. What's missing there? This is part of the answer, by the way. This isn't wrong, but we're not completely done yet. Color first, right? If you alternate, you could say or color black and white, color black and white. So that's also an option, right? Where you have, so you could have just multiplied this first answer by 2 or split it up into cases. And you've got 2 colors and then a color there. Got 2 black and whites for the first slot, 1 here. So you've got 4 additional ways of arranging. And if you add these up, you get 8 arrangements. So 2 marks, it's a little bit more than meets the eye. Watch out for the 2 marks, okay? Let's keep going. Question 12. Based on the team's record, a local soccer team has a probability of 0.8 of winning their game on a sunny day. The probability of winning the game on a cloudy day is 60%, or 0.6. The probability of cloudy weather on any given day is 30%. use a graphic organizer, that right there, highlight that, or underline it, graphic organizer, to show all possible outcomes for this situation. Okay, so we can use a tree diagram. That's the one I want to focus in on. So this is a scenario where the weather determines whether or not you're going to win. So what should you start with in this case? What's that, Tom? 0.8? So that's the probability of winning, but wouldn't you think that the weather should come first, like whether it's sunny or cloudy, right? Okay, so this would be cloudy, 0.3, and this would be sunny, right? We can call that sunny. What's the probability of it being sunny? 70%, because it's 30% the chances of being cloudy. And so for each one of those legs, you've got winning, not winning, winning, not winning, or winning and losing. It doesn't really matter what you use there. When it's cloudy, the chances of winning is 60%, so you go 60%, meaning there's a 40% chance of losing. When it's sunny, right, when the team has a probability of 80% chance of winning when it is sunny, therefore 20% chance of winning when it's, or losing when it's sunny, okay? So let's figure out all the ends here. So 0.3, I have to be careful here. Yeah, this is 0.18. This is 0.12. This is 0.56. And this is 0.14. Okay. And let's answer B as well. Determine the probability that the soccer team wins. Probability of winning would be adding up 0.18, right? Because that's your winning there. So I'm going to highlight the winning is this one right here, and this leg right here, the 0.56, also has a probability of winning. So you have a total of 0.74 or 74%. We're on question 12. Degrees, percent. That's what I meant to say. Those are the example quiz. That was good. Okay? All right, keep going. Question 13. A school principal is selecting students from a group of volunteers to organize a social event. There are 12 students in a group, 8 students from class A and 4 students from class B. How many different groups of 5 students can be created if there are no restrictions? If you're using groups, if you're making groups, what would you use? Perms or coms? Combinations, that's right. So we're making groups of 5. So we've got 12, and from those 12 we choose 5. That's it. 12 choose 5. Do you remember where to find these, ladies? Come on. You want to grab those exams? Here. So that would be 12 alpha. I even forgot. I have to check now. Alpha window does it, and you just go choose. So 12 choose 5. That's 792 groups. So if we don't care if it's all Class A, all Class B, and everything in between, 792. How many different groups of 5 are possible? All right, let's keep going. Let's finish this. So we're making 12 choose 5, that's just 792 groups. How many groups of 5s are possible, which include at least one student from class B? And notice that this is a 2-mark question. So I will treat it this way. I'll go total minus no class B students. That's how I will approach this, because if I get rid of all the groups that have no class B, then everything else has at least one or more. Okay? That's how I approach this. So this would be 12 choose 5, like all of the groups possible, minus, how is a group created with no class B students? Well, from all 8 in class A, you choose your 5. And from the 4 remaining class B students, you would choose none of them. And remember, these two adds up is your group of 5. Okay? And these two numbers give us our total, right? So in this case, if you see this, you're still considering 12 students. You're still making groups of 5. Okay? So this will be 792 minus, by the way, 12, anything choose 0 is always just 1. Okay? We're just doing that so we understand and so we can follow. So it's 8 choose 5, which is 56. Groups can be made with at least one class B student in it. Hold it. What if it says what's the probability of having at least one class B student? What would change to this answer? What's the only change you would have to make? Over 792, right? Just do all of this. This is NA. You're finding how many. So I'll just say probability. I don't know, I'm just shortening it. Probability. Right, if it asks that, it would be 736 over 792. Okay, that's the only difference. And this is a complete aside. But please read, it's how many, or is it probability, or is it odds? Like, those are always things you need to watch out for. You know what? I'm today going off on tangents. What if it says odds? Odds of having at least one class B student. So then you'd be class B. In this case, I won't use letters because it will be too confusing. 736, right, is what we want. And on the other side, 792 minus 736. You take your total, take away the ones you've already used. $56. Okay. Oh, I knew that actually, right? I knew that. But these would have been the odds if they had asked for it. Chances that they're going to do that are low because you're already doing quite a bit of work. Probability is not, it is very likely actually that they go probability instead of number of. So you just have to watch out. Okay, keep going. Financial mathematics, so we're done with probability. Genevieve wants to invest $3,000 over 2 years and has 2 options. Invest in a Canada savings bond at simple interest at 2.2%. Option 2, invest at a guaranteed investment certificate, a GIC, at an interest rate of 2.2% compounded annually. Select a statement that is true. A, the Canada savings bond will earn more interest. B, the GIC has a higher level of risk. C, both investments will earn equal amounts of interest. GIC will earn more interest. Which one do you think is true out of all 4? Notice that let's see what we do know. They both have the same interest rate. But this one is what? This one is simple interest. and this one is compound interest. Okay. So we know that the GIC will earn more interest, for sure. Like, if you don't know anything else, there's only one true statement, okay? And in this case, it's this one right here. The GIC will earn more due to compounding. Okay, so this is the right answer. This is wrong, okay, because it's simple interest compared to compounding interest. If everything else is the same, guys, everything else is the same. The amount you're investing, right, the interest rate, everything else is the same. So in that case, compounding always wins. Sometimes is not the case when they're starting with a different amount, right? If you have a different starting amount, then it's different. All right, next. According to the rule of 72, what is the approximate interest rate for an investment to be doubled in 12 years? So all you have to do is 72 divided by 12 to get the interest rate, and that'd be 6%, okay? So 6 it is. Make sure you circle the right answer though. Even though if you do the work on the side, you have to circle the right answer to get the mark, okay? So don't forget that. Okay, explain why someone would choose to rent instead of purchasing a house. Easier to move, to relocate, lower startup costs, no large down payment. Lower maintenance costs. Don't give more than one and hope for the best, right? Just give the one that you know for sure is applying to this scenario. So lower maintenance costs, things like that. Okay. There are no, you don't have to worry about large breakdowns because the landlord will take care of it. Utilities are usually included. Things like that, all of them are acceptable. I gave you a bunch. Just use them, okay? Amina invests $7,500 in a guaranteed investment certificate. What is the rate of return of her investment if the GIC is worth $7,800 after 1 year? Rate of return. In this case, you would figure out how much have you earned in interest. Okay, you figure it out. It's $300, you can tell, and you divide it by how much you start off with, like how much did you invest in this particular investment. So that'll be 300 over 7,500 times 100, and that'll be, I think it's 4%. Yeah, 4%. 1 mark. So there's not a whole lot that meets the eye there. It's just 1 mark, so we're not going to spend too much time on that. Question 18. 7 years ago, Henry bought a house valued at $249,500. Determine the current value of his house if it appreciated at an average rate of 8% per year. So value is initial, right? 1 plus or minus rate to the power of years. And remember that the rate, if it's depreciation, then you have to subtract. If it's appreciation, you add. So in this case, it's 249,500. 1 plus 0.08 to the power of 7. That's just this. And if you crunch those numbers, go ahead. 427,599.16. It didn't ask for equity or anything like that, right? I believe that if you go through those reviews, you'll have a question where it asks you to determine the equity. In this case, it's just like, do you know how to use the exponential formula and figure out how much a house will be worth down the road. And emphasis on appreciated, right? That's why we went added there. Let's keep going. You must choose between investing in the stock market or buying a 5-year guaranteed investment certificate. Provide one disadvantage of investing in the stock market. Higher risk. You may lose it all. Okay. Provide one disadvantage of buying a GIC. What's a disadvantage of getting a GIC? Locked in funds, yes. Money is locked in for 5 years in this case. Because we bought a 5-year, so you're locked in, you can't use it. At this time, they did not have a TFSA yet, tax-free savings account. That only got introduced a year or two ago. So the current exams will have more TFSA terminology. It's just a savings account, right? But GIC is always going to remain. Okay, keep going. I don't know why they do this, but they will tell you if there's a blank page. You don't have to worry about it. Nothing. It's not a printer error. It's just we left it blank for some reason. I don't know why. I have a feeling that sometimes they want questions to be right beside each other down the road, so that's why. Question 20. Petra and Sabine are comparing bank loans. Both plan to borrow $65,000 at 5% over 3 years. Petra's loan will be compounded quarterly and she will make quarterly payments. Sabine's loan is compounded monthly and will make monthly payments. Calculate the amount paid, the total amount paid for each loan. Show your work. So part of it is to start your TVM solver. If it's compounded interest, folks, use TVM solver. Just copy this down. I'll do them side by side. So Petra, I tend to start at the bottom if I don't know much about it. So it's compounded quarterly, and we're making payments that are quarterly as well. What is the future value if it's a loan? 0, yeah. The payment to be determined, present value $65,000. When you're borrowing money, it's coming to you guys, so it's positive. Interest rate is 5%. N is what? The years, 3 years, times whatever PY is. So don't forget to do that. So there you have it. So the only thing left here is your payment. Before I fill this out on my calculator, I'm going to go with Sabine here. Compounded monthly. The payments are monthly, right? In this case, they match. Future value is still 0. We'll figure out the payment. 65,000 is also being borrowed at 5% over 3 years. But in this case, it's 3 times 12, yes. So let's do each at a time. So if you think about it, that's the only way to figure out how much you paid for each loan is to figure out their payment first, and then we'll figure out how much was paid for the loan. So apps, finance, TVM solver. And let's go to town here. Payment is 5,000. $5,866.79. I will do Sabine's right away. So 12 and 12, the compounding and the payments. I'll put a 0 on payment for now. I gotta go 36 at the top for N. Payment is $1,948.11. And here's where you have to pay attention. What is it asking for? Total paid would just be N times your payments. Like you're just worried about how much you paid for the loan. What's the other one? Total paid for the truck, the computer. Then you have to add the down payment to it if it ever had been, like for the actual thing you bought. But if it's just for the loan, you just do this part, okay? So we're gonna go 12 times our payment for Petra. And we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna go 36 times $1,948.11. And we'll figure out both of the amounts that they paid for the loan. I already did that, so I'm gonna 70,401.48. This one is 70,131.96. So Sabine paid a little less overall, right? There was a bit more savings. And remember, they could have asked you for interest paid for both loans, anything like that. Principal paid. Just have to be ready for it. All right, let's go to 26. I find this question like, where did you go with this? Like, I feel like they didn't make a point. They usually want to make a point like, who saved, like what was the difference or anything like that. It just made you do a bunch of work and just figure out both of their totals that they paid. Like that's it. I find that very odd, but hey, just read. Question 21. Louise wants a new computer. Total cost of the computer is $2,014. Taxes included. Read this carefully, okay? Taxes included, so you don't have to add taxes. Wonders which option is better, getting the loan to purchase a computer or leasing. So option 1 is getting your loan, interest rate compounding periods, and how long, for 2 years. What is Louise's monthly payment with option 1? So let's do that. We'll do the TVM solver. And so in this case, compounding monthly, it says to figure out the monthly payment. So PY is 12, future value is 0, payment is to be figured out. PV is 2014, 6.25. It's 2 years, so 2 times 12 is 24. You figure out your payment. Your payment is $89.49. Which again, I find very odd that they make you do basically the same thing you did on the previous question. But like they didn't ask you maybe for an interest rate needed for this to happen or something like that. But remember, just read carefully and you'll be okay. 2 marks for this. Let's keep going. Calculate the total cost for option 1 and for option 2. Watch what I'm going to do here. Option 1, purchase. This is where little things are, so total paid for item, you can call it car, computer, whatever, is N times PMT plus the down payment. That's what you do with option 1. So the down payment is now being added, but there is no down payment, correct? So in this case, we don't have to worry about it, but if there had been one, we would have wanted to add that. So this is just 24 times 8949 plus 0. And that is 2,147 and 76 cents. So that's the option to purchase. Option 2 is the lease. Let's go read the lease first before we tackle this one. Monthly payments are $80, taxes included, so that's important, for 2 years. Purchase the computer at the end for $400, also taxes included already. So we don't have to worry about any taxes in this scenario. And I know it's leasing a computer, but it's still the same. Total lease would be 24 payments. No, yeah, it is 24. 24 payments of $80 plus purchasing it at the end. I just want to make sure you understand this part, right? We are purchasing the total cost, and the fact is that we are purchasing it at the end. I'm just going to read to make sure. Option 2 is leasing and then purchasing it $400 at the end. So they should have probably maybe specified that both of them include owning it at the end. So this is 1920, this part, plus 400. So it's 2,320 to lease it for the option number 2. Which option should Louise choose? And this is where there's no right answer. You just have to explain properly. You could say option 1. You end up saving as the total cost is less. So it's less, obviously we can tell side by side. Or you could say option 2. Why would you pick option 2? Usually the payment is lower when you lease. The payment, okay? That's what I see. It's 89 versus 80. Cheaper payment. Lower payment. I would say lower payment is better. Better answer there. And with leasing, you do have the option to return it at the end of the lease if you don't like it, right? That's the idea there. All right, keep going. Design and measurement. What is the minimum amount of paper required to create the cone-shaped paper cup shown below? Diagram is not drawn to scale. First of all, read carefully. It's a cup. So the top is open. Okay? So for a cone, the surface area of a cone, we also know we need surface area because it's the paper required. It's what wraps around it. So it's usually pi r squared plus pi rs. Okay? That is the surface. What's that? Yeah, so this is the surface area of a cone. So surface area of a cup would just be pi rs. Okay? It's just this part. We don't, so we kind of ignore this part in this case. So it's pi, and the radius is 3, and the slant is 5, right? So they kind of put extra info there. They even made it so that you could do volume, probably. They want to see if teachers are actually teaching. Okay, 4712. So in this case, and sometimes they have whole numbers, so you have to just pick the one that's closest to the one you got. So that's it. 1 mark. 2 marks. A student was given the following diagram and was asked how many cubic yards of soil are required to fill this garden with 4 inches of soil. Diagram not drawn to scale. The student provides this answer: 18 by 9 by 4. Okay, it's 54 cubic feet, 18 cubic yards. Explain the student's error and provide the correct answer. What is wrong with this fraction? Let's investigate. So 4 inches, this is all feet, right? So 4 inches should be what? 4 over 12, right? That actually does reduce to 1 over 3. So this is for now correct. There's something else wrong. From here to here. I hope that in your notes, your study sheets, you have that 1 cubic yard has how many cubic feet? 27 cubic feet, yes. So this student just went divided by 3. This student used 1 yard has 3 feet. Okay? That is what has been used here. And that is wrong. Okay? You can't just divide a cubic measurement by 3 and get the equivalent yard. Okay? It just doesn't work like that. So student used 1 yard is equal to 3 feet to convert cubic units. Exclamation mark. How dare you, right? Correct answer would have been 54 cubic feet times, if you want cubic yards, you go 1 cubic yard has 27 cubic feet, like so. You cancel out the cubic feet. So it's 54 divided by 27. And that is 2, right? I will add to this because what the student did is just kept it at 1 yard has 3 feet. And if you go 54 divided by 3, you get 18. And this is wrong, okay? So it didn't use the proper conversion to get it from cubic yards to cubic feet to cubic yards, I should say. So I would hope that you have these ones. They will not give you those. I should probably, you have a bunch, but I will probably also ask you to have this one. This would be 144, no, sorry, 9 square feet. This one isn't as popular as the cubic one up here. But I would have, so it's basically 1 yard has 3 feet, so if you square 3, you get 9, right? 9 square feet. So there, that's where you get that from. Let's keep going. We're almost done. Bathroom floor. A bathroom floor is covered with 15 floor tiles. Each of the tiles measures 18 inches by 18 inches. How many floor tiles measuring 6 by 6 would be needed to cover the same area? So that area that we're talking about here. So I will say this, area of room or bathroom, right? You got 15 tiles and they measure 18 by 18 each, right? So this is just one tile, one of those large tiles. So this is, I'll just give you the answer. If you go 15 times 18 times 18, or if you want to go 18 times 18 first, so you just get the 324, why not? So if you go times 15, sorry, squared inches. So the area of the bathroom to be covered is this is the area in squared inches. And the reason I kept it in inches is because the smaller tiles I'm going to be using is also already in inches, so I won't bother converting. So area of a small tile would be 6 times 6, which is 36 squared inches. So number of tiles is simply the large area to be covered divided by 36. That's 135. If this had been a decimal, make sure if it's your final answer, you round. So 135 tiles for that one. So area of room, area of small tile, I divide to figure out how many small tiles I need to fill up that space. And B, you would like to redo the floor with those 6 by 6 inch tiles. These tiles are sold in packages of 5 tiles, okay? And each of them costs $4, taxes included. How much would it cost to buy the number of tiles you calculated in A, so the 135? Just go boxes. You take 135 tiles, divide it by 5 tiles. And that gives you exactly 27 boxes, packages. So again, you would round up immediately, okay? If this had been 27.1, you have to buy 28, okay guys? You round up every time. When it's purchasing time, round up, okay? So cost is 27 times the $4, and it's 108. We do not add taxes. Why not? Because the $4 includes taxes already. If it hadn't been, if it says plus taxes, we need to add taxes to this, okay? Keep going. We're so close. Logical reasoning. Given the statement, if it is sunny outside, then I will walk to school. Select the converse of this statement. So P, this is P, then Q, right? We use P, then Q. So this is the original conditional. Converse is what? Converse calls for if Q, then P. That's what converse. So we're looking for if I walk to school, then it is sunny. That's what we're looking for. It's the very first statement right here. I'm just going to check if it is not sunny outside, then I will not walk to school. What is this one? Anybody remember what this statement is? If it is not sunny outside, then I will not. Yes, this is the inverse. What about this one? If I will not walk to school, then it is not sunny outside. This is the contrapositive, right? Like, because walking to school is Q, so this is not Q, then not P. This is the contrapositive. It is sunny if and only if I will walk to school. What's this one? Biconditional. Yeah. So this is converse right here. Because this is if Q, then P. So this is the right answer. Question. Which one is equivalent, like has the equivalent, which one is equivalent to if P then Q, to the conditional? Which one of these would be exactly the same as this when you made a truth table? It would be the contrapositive. So contrapositive and conditional have the same meaning, and so do the converse and the inverse. They have the same meaning. Okay. So just putting it out there. Can I just quickly, underneath here, I don't know how much your study sheets are showing. I'll just make a quick truth table here. It's the quickest way to make your truth table, guys. True, true, false, false. And then go true, false, true, false. Then you have all cases taken care of. Which one is the only scenario where your statement will be false? Which one is the only time you're lying? TF, yes. TF. That's a good one. So this is false. And the other ones are true. Okay. So that's the only time that's, like, if it's a conditional, if it's that arrow, you want to find a situation where you start with this letter, which is T, and where does it go towards? If it goes towards an F, then it's false. Okay. What about this one? PQ. I can merge this. I can merge this for sure. What about this? P and Q. What do we focus on if it's and? There's only one that's unique when it's and. What's that, Arian? Not sure? You don't want to share? Come on. The only time it's and is if both are true, then you're actually telling the truth, right? I'm going to have hot dog and a burger, right? You're only telling the truth if you're actually doing both of them. So it's only these, like true and true. I circle that because that's unique, and therefore everything else is different than that. Okay. And then there's the P or Q. In that case, what's the unique one when it's or? Both false, right? That's the only time that you're lying, and everything else is true. Yeah. So this is in a nutshell. If you can remember this, you'll be in pretty good shape. The only thing I need to warn you is they like to mess with you a little bit. Okay, so what do I mean by that? They may ask you to write a not Q here somewhere. Like there's Q and then not Q right beside it. If there's a not Q, you just change whatever you have for Q, it's the exact opposite. Okay, and then they might ask you, hey, what's P and not Q or not Q? So then you have to be careful which rows you're comparing. Okay, but remember, you're looking for the true values, true, false, false, true, and just follow this logic, follow these rules, and it still applies. Okay, so you just have to watch out a little bit. So this is, oh, there's the one I forgot, the biconditional. I honestly, right now, I'm drawing a blank what I told you on that one. I think the only time this one is true, both true and both false, right? Yes. So let's look at the trues and trues, right? True, false, false, true, everything else false. Yes. So false, false, and true, true. That's the only time that one is true. Okay. Let's keep going, because we're probably going to run into that. Okay. 26. Given the universal 1 to 10, right? Give an example of two disjoint subsets of U. That's I like odds and evens, guys, when it comes to disjoint. To be honest, I'll just go even, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Odds, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Does it matter if you had just 1 and 3? It wouldn't matter. Like, as long as they're disjoint, they have nothing in common. Okay? You don't even need to draw a Venn diagram, nothing. This is it. Okay, keep going. 1 mark. They could have asked you make 2 that where 1 is a subset of the other. So watch out for that. A survey was conducted on 50 randomly selected people, asking them for their snack preference. How many people do not like any of the snacks indicated above? Show your work. So we have the both snackers, right? So obviously this is overlapping. And we know that U is 50. We've got 9 here. Chocolate bar, 20 people that like that. Potato chips, 23 that like that one. And so first you need to fill in all these areas. 20 minus 9 is 11. 23 minus 9 is 14. So there you have it. You need to figure out your outliers. Never forget about them unless it says everybody was in at least one of these or everybody liked at least one of these. Okay. Other than that, you can expect outliers. So 20 plus 14, that's 34. So it's 50 minus 20 basically, right? The 20 here minus 14. And did I say 34? So 26? 16, sorry, 16. That's what I meant to say, 16. So we're not done yet because you haven't clearly indicated which ones, right? Of course, I would know that you know, but the province, they want you. So 16 people do not like any. So it's just part of your work. 2 marks for that. So they did expect you to use a Venn diagram of some sort. Question. I know that they've done this before where they just gave you this. Obviously, we know that these ones are not mutually exclusive because there's both, right? Someone likes both. But another way you would have been able to tell whether or not these are joint is if you ever add these two and it's more than 50, okay, then you know that these are joint sets. Okay, there's some people that are, there's an overlap. So when you see that, you know for sure, even though in this case they gave it away because there was an overlap with the ones that like both. Okay. And if you thought logic is gone, here's more. 3 marks for this page, and then we're done with this exam. This was a short exam. I don't know. Given the statement, if a number is a multiple of 3, then it is a multiple of 9. Provide a counterexample for the given statement. If a number is a multiple of 3, then it's a multiple of 9. So you can maybe try a few things. Let's do our M3s. Our M3s would be 3, 6, 9, 12, and so forth. Multiples of 9 would be 9, 18, 27, and so forth. Okay. So what would be a good counterexample here? What is it? It has to be a multiple of 3, but not a multiple of 9. You can use 3 or 6, right? So, example 6. They just need you to provide one. They don't even need you to explain it. Okay. So there you provided a counterexample, which means the biconditional is not a go. Okay. So I will just say this. A note: if there is a counter, I'm just going to go counter, then No biconditional. Okay, then there's no way to write a biconditional statement if there's a counterexample. Write the contrapositive of this statement. So they basically want you to flip P and Q and put a not in front of both of them. So how would you do that? By the way, this is P and this is Q, right? That's your original conditional. So this is Q, so I need to start with Q and put a not. If a number is not a multiple of 9, then it is not a multiple of 3. That's it. I would call these easy marks, guys. Like just have that on your study sheet, know where the letters go, and then just rewrite the statement. Write the inverse of the given statement. The inverse is just putting a not in front of P and Q, right? So it stays, the order stays, it's just nots in front of them. So if a number is not a multiple of 3, then it is a multiple of, then it is, well, watch this. It isn't a multiple of 3. Yes, we're okay to do that. English exam, I don't think, right? Are you allowed to do that on the English exam? Sorry? Thank you. Please don't do what I just did, because you're so excited it's the end of the test, and you messed that one up, right? Take your time. Thank you, Aliyah. You've been my my assistant this whole semester, correcting me. And a few of you have corrected me as well, others. So.